You know, when a lot of tech companies update their products, they'll say something along the lines of, "You spoke and we listened," or "We hear your feedback loud and clear." Well, Zeapon did not say anything at all. They just released this Micro 2 Plus slider to the world. And you know something else? They took some advice from YouTubers, particularly tech channels. In fact, I think even this channel. Yeah, that's right. This channel has a little bit of influence. Roll intro. Hi everyone and welcome to Pal to Tech. This is the new Zeapon Micro 2 Plus camera slider. Camera sliders are one of those accessories that they sound kind of boring and no one really thinks about them that much, but sliders can have a dramatic effect on your video footage. A while back, I reviewed the original Zeapon Micro 2 slider. It was super compact, could hold a good amount of weight. However, a number of reviewers, such as myself, pointed out a few problems with the original Micro 2 slider. So, did they fix them? And is the new Zeapon Micro 2 Plus a good slider for Fujifilm cameras? Let's find out. First off, Zeapon was kind enough to send out a copy of this Micro 2 slider Plus to test and review. But just like always, this review is, my own opinion, man, and I am not being paid by Zeapon whatsoever to do this review. And in fact, they have not seen this video until right now when all of you are watching it. The new upgraded slider alone retails for about $259, but that's without the motor. The motor alone costs $249. However, if you get the slider and the motor together as a package, you're looking at a total price of about $445. Okay, so opening it up and taking it out of the box, I noticed right away that we have our first product improvement. It's a minor one, but it's what I said in my prior review regarding this old bag here. It's a little bit on the small side, okay? It would just be nice just to have it a little bit bigger. Just a little bit bigger would be awesome. They now have a new design. It's a much easier bag that you can drop the slider in and throw the whole thing in your camera bag. Taking the slider itself out of the box, I immediately noticed some much more significant improvements over the original. First off, the bottom mounting plate is now permanently attached to, and it's just part of the slider now. It's one unit, so to speak. The original Micro 2 had this detachable plate, and it was really kind of a pain in the butt to get off and on. And just saying, I also pointed that out as well in my original review. There's no easy way to get to the screw underneath without having to take this mounting plate off. Next is the locking mechanism. In the original Micro, you could only lock this thing if the slider was in the center position, and you had to use these two buttons right here, which really led to a problem that I had after I did my previous review. When you locked the original slider and you pressed both of these buttons in, and then you went to move the motor, say, right? It wound up getting itself locked into this area right here. And then it would just get jammed in there because of the force of the motor had sort of jammed it inside there. And you had to wiggle it and pound it, and it was just such a pain in the butt. So the new Micro 2 now solves all of those problems. You can You can lock it in any position. For example, let's say you have the camera up here, you're on set, you have this on the tripod, everything's ready to go, and you want to lock it. Instead of the old way of having to move it to the center and then lock it and then have to remember not to turn the motor on while it's locked, all you have to do now, just press this button, just like that, and it's locked. Have a look at that. Totally locked. You see that? And somebody else, I don't know, resembling myself, also mentioned this problem that they have now solved. It would be nice if I could lock the position of this, not just in the center, but be able to say, lock it right here, right? So I can have it here and have it locked right there if I need to. That would be a really nice feature to incorporate. Another nice improvement they did was seal up the oil and grease area right here. You see that? They just must have read my mind on this one, because there is oil or grease on here on the slider, normally to keep it moving smoothly, and let me tell you, that crap can get on your lens. Next are the feet. Now, the original one you could adjust the height by turning, The problem is these were just a little on the flimsy side. They worked okay, but every now and then, depending upon how much weight you had on the slider, it would sometimes go whoonk like that. What they did in the newer one, which is really nice, is they changed out the old design for these little balls right here. There are 4 balls on this slider, and as you turn them, see, it raises and lowers it. And if you're on uneven ground, you can compensate for that by rotating one of the ball feet right here so that it goes and matches and is firm and level. A nice touch and a great design. By far, the biggest and most important improvement they made was using a magnetic locking mechanism to make putting on and off this motor a simple process. And you just use your fingers and thumbs. That's it. You don't need any tools. Watch. Go like this to take it off. Boom. There, it's off like that. There. Just comes right out. You see that? Honestly, it couldn't be any easier. You just take the motor, hook it onto the end like this. The magnetic piece goes back in the housing. Just drops it in like that. Flip it over, and then just put this in here like this, and just tighten it. That's it. Now I've got the motor on. They also put a battery lock mechanism on the new version. See that? And you have to press it in order to get the battery out. That is a much welcome improvement compared to the old version, where if you had a battery in there, it was quite easy, to have it fall out, right? So with all of these improvements I've mentioned, how does this slider actually perform compared with, say, the older one? Well, I would say much better in a lot of cases. For example, I found that the slider motor on the newer version is a bit quieter at about 39 decibels. The overall balance and smoothness that you get with the slide and the legs themselves are actually better. They're sturdier. Overall, it's just easier to use, it's more stable, and I think you get a smoother slide motion. Now, with the motor and not including the battery, it can weigh up to 2 kilograms. You plop a battery on there, it weighs a little more. You put a ball head with a camera on it, now you're talking some weight here, right? However, the slider can hold up to 8 kilograms of camera weight on it. And the total travel distance you get is 54 centimeters with the motor and 56 centimeters without the motor. Besides a power button on the side, it also has a USB-C port as well as a remote release cable. When you turn on the power, you're greeted with 3 buttons right here. Each one of those is for a separate speed. So if I wanted the slider to go as fast as possible, I just press the button once. I now have all 3, and that will slide at the maximum speed. Or I can just press the button once and toggle between each of the speeds just like this. And when you flip it over onto the top, you have a forward and a backward. And you can control it with these buttons. And you can also set starting and ending positions, and then it will be automated. There is a way to do that as well. Lastly, you can use the Zeapon app if you want to control the slider. Now, there's a few things you need to be aware of with this slider. The first is that they do not yet have a motorized ball head, meaning that if you are needing a slider for time-lapse shots to have it tied into the camera and be all automated, it will not yet work on this unit. However, my understanding is that Zeapon is going to soon be launching a special dedicated motorized ball head that will allow full compatibility with their app and getting those awesome time-lapse shots. Zeapon, pretty please, if you do release a motorized ball head, be sure it works well with Fujifilm cameras. Also, neither on the app or on the slider itself is an ability to force a ramp up at the beginning of a slider movement, right? So you're not able to go like that. You can't do that. That would actually seem like something that Zeapon could add in a future firmware update. Lastly, let's talk about the app for a minute. It's rough around the edges from a usability perspective. And I think a lot of camera and gear manufacturing companies are finding out, maybe the hard way, that just because you have an app, that's not enough. Software design and good usability requires a lot of work, a lot of research and a lot of usability testing, and there is definitely room for improvement with the Zeapon app. Even though in its form right now, the app will allow you to set control points and automate various aspects of the slider's movement. However, I think the app does still need a lot of work. In fact, I found myself just ditching the app altogether and simply using the controls on the slider, which I'm very glad that they have. Overall, this is a great version 2 product. And as I mentioned, its only drawback is its lack of ability to control the camera for shooting time-lapse with a motorized ball head and the lack of a polished and easy-to-use app. Still, the slider itself is so good that more than makes up for it. I'm going to give the Zeapon Micro 2 Plus slider an A-. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, be sure to give it the like and subscribe. I'll see you in another video very soon. Take care. First off, Zeapon was kind enough to send us a copy of the Micro 2 slider. Don't want to break the product before I've had a chance to demo it.